Back in mid-October, I believe, we had a similar first reading. It was from this same part of the Queen of Sheba visiting Solomon. And I remember thinking, ooh, I really want to talk about that. But there was also a good gospel reading and lots of other stuff, and there were some other things. So I prayed and I went with a different idea. However, the scripture tells us that there is a time for everything under the sun. And the Lord provides. And so here we are today talking about the Queen of Sheba. So who is she? Where's she from? What is she doing here? It's kind of a strange story in the Bible. There's not a whole lot of context for it. So the Queen of Sheba really did exist. There's actually kind of like a record of a dynasty of queens of Sheba, right? And this was a wealthy kingdom in what is now modern-day Yemen. So if you go on a map and you look at that big peninsula where Saudi Arabia is, down near the bottom of that, near the ocean, that's Yemen. It's a beautiful country. In geography, ironically, not so different from a place like Jerusalem. So she's the queen there, but she goes all the way up to Jerusalem to visit Solomon. And again, if you picture that map we just made, that's crossing all of modern-day Saudi Arabia. That's a big, harsh desert that she had to cross to get to Solomon. She asks him many, many questions. She kind of tests him, and then she rewards him for his good answers, for the wisdom that he gives her. So why is this in the Bible? Well, first of all, because it's important to the political history of Israel. This would have been a really, really big deal for their kingdom, that their king was so honored by some other matriarch. Right? And 1 Kings is kind of a record of what many, especially in early Judaism, considered to be the golden age of Israel. Kings David and Solomon, great new projects being accomplished, conquests fulfilled, the temple built. Everything was good back then. If you go on and read the rest of 1 Kings into 2 Kings, you'll see how it gets not so good. And I won't get into all that today, but the point is that this moment becomes an important touchstone. It's a point of reference for the Jews who look back to it and say, man, our kingdom was really great. So there's some national pride here. But I suggested briefly back in October, and I want to explore more today, that the Queen of Sheba is a model for us in our search for wisdom. We are all seeking wisdom. I think it's pretty safe to say that's why you guys are here today, among other things. Jesus himself, Word incarnate, Word, Logos, wisdom, right? It all kind of connects. So we're seeking wisdom, but are we doing a good job of it? Are we willing to do what the Queen of Sheba did in her search for wisdom? Can we leave a comfortable existence behind? Can we go through harsh things, tough experiences, seek wisdom in unusual places? Will we journey a long way to get it? Are we willing to suffer in order to become wise? Furthermore, we need to ask whether we are in the habit of asking questions and thinking critically. When the queen asked Solomon all of those questions, she expected him to have the right answers. She wasn't trying to trick him. She was trying to learn. She was trying to deepen her own understanding. She was trying to draw more wisdom out of Solomon. And so even when we trust, even when we assent, even when we're just there to learn, it's still okay and very good, I think, to ask questions so that we can understand better. Finally, the queen had a great desire for wisdom, and we see that in all the gifts that she gave Solomon. Clearly, she placed a tremendous value on the things that he told her. What are we willing to give up? What do we value in exchange for wisdom? Her example of seeking wisdom actually lines up with many, many, many examples, both secular and religious, of other people throughout history who sought wisdom. Think of Greek philosophers. Think of Roman Stoics. Think of the scholastic tradition in our church, the universities throughout the medieval era. Think much earlier, back to the desert mystics, the monks who would live alone out in the desert, praying constantly, barely eating or sleeping. Each of these people, each of these groups in their own way, made seeking wisdom the focus of their life. It wasn't just about learning more stuff. It wasn't about knowing facts. It was about the way they lived. Each practiced some form of self-denial, fasting, mortification. Each meditated. Each used questioning and dialogue to refine their ideas. All of these groups of people were happy to argue. They were happy to bounce ideas off of the people around them so that everyone could benefit from that exchange. The reason I bring up all those characteristics is that I think they're somewhat lost today. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The one that I'll pick on today is the internet. If you think about all those things I just mentioned, making wisdom the focus of your life and what you do, well, the internet doesn't really encourage that. Self-denial, fasting, mortification, the internet says we should have wisdom instantly. Just look it up, go get it, right? It doesn't teach us how hard it can be. Questioning and dialogue to refine their ideas. Don't even want to touch that on the internet. That's just a joke at this point, right? So there's so many factors in our culture that keep us from making that authentic search for wisdom, that keep us from making that part of our lives. Today, I hope the Queen of Sheba can be an example to us, not just to seek out knowledge or information, not just to question, to argue, but to really set time, set value aside and search for wisdom so that we might, in the end, find what she did.